All right, we're going to go ahead and start the recording for this session today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. You are joining the first of a two-part series on financial literacy and how money works. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Women's Business Center. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization serving entrepreneurs in San Luis Obispo, Kern, and Monterey counties. This webinar is being sponsored by the Small Business Administration, the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, and WealthWave, which disseminates this financial literacy education for the Heartland Institute of Financial Education, another 501c3 nonprofit organization. Combined, their generosity allows us to offer this webinar and our free mentoring services to you at no charge, including the workbook that we will be disseminating that you can follow along with today and next week on Tuesday when we have part 2. If you'd like more information about getting that book, contact me privately. I will be putting my information in the chat shortly. So I want to thank you to our sponsors, and now I would like to pause and share a brief 60-second video with you about the Women's Business Center.
As an entrepreneur, I can tell you, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't because of the Women's Business Center.
We're getting all of these wonderful services, whether they're classes, courses, virtual workshops, one-on-one consulting and mentoring for free. It's invaluable.
The consultants at the Women's Business Center are just amazing people, very caring people too, I've noticed. They all seem to be really empathetic and really kind, and they're really professional, like they're actually doing these things in their own lives and they're making a living at it.
The Women's Business Center was really important for us when we were trying to make a decision on whether to relocate to the Central Coast. Coming to a small area like this, we didn't know if we would have professional resources or connections available. So we utilized the services of the Women's Business Center to help us learn about the community.
If I have any questions, if I have doubts, opening a business is not easy. But if you have the right support and the right consultant who's gonna be there with you, then there is no fear because they are there for you.
Who has that, How lucky am I to have that opportunity to have so much help given to me and so many people that want me to succeed. And they're all really nice to me too. I love that place.
Wonderful. All right, I would like to thank Gretchen Ricker for presenting today. Gretchen spent nearly 2 decades as a local real estate broker, and she retired in November of 2020. She's federally certified in financial literacy education through the Heartland Institute of Financial Education, a 501c3 organization. This certification allows Gretchen to conduct continuing education courses for companies with 401k programs and fulfills the federal ERISA requirements for financial literacy education in the workplace. She possesses a lot of licenses, a Series 65, a Series 6, and a Series 63 license as a uniform investment advisor. Gretchen maintains an office in Atascadero. She is the mother of 2 grown grandchildren and 7 grandchildren. She enjoys sailing, playing banjo, and driving her red 1990 Camaro throughout the Central Coast. As I mentioned earlier, today's presentation is a part 2 series, and you are in for a treat today. The second class in our series will be happening Tuesday of next week, the 16th, and I believe most of you are registered for both. And again, to pick up your workbook, contact us when I put our information in the chat. Give me a call or send me an email. We'll set up a time for you to come by the office and grab that. So before we get started, please, I want to go over a couple of little housekeeping items. We've asked that you limit your distractions and mute your phone. Your webcams are optional. We will be taking questions throughout the course today in the chat box. and Gretchen will be engaging with you directly. Feel free to unmute yourself to speak at those times. This webinar is being recorded, and I will email you all the recording link once it is processed. Before we get going, I want to launch a quick poll to find out how you heard about us today. This should take no more than 30 seconds.
I'm going to be speaking in just a moment.
Excellent. And now I'd like to turn the show over to Gretchen. Gretchen, welcome.
Well, thank you. You can hear me okay, Laura?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and then we'll get rocking and rolling. So you should be able to see the how many works? Stop being a sucker?
We sure do.
Okay. Okay, we did it. Yay. Okay, thanks everybody for being here. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to share this presentation with everyone. And Laura kind of touched the overview of who I am and what I do. I have a tremendous passion for doing this kind of a presentation, and I'm going to give you just a little taste of why. I was a single mom for 14 years, and in that process, I didn't know how money works, and I made mistakes. I mean like every financial mistake possible, I made it, because I was never taught the basics of how money works. So I didn't know who to talk to or how to get help, and it was a pretty messy experience. So I had a very special person in my life come alongside me during those years, and he sat down with me and introduced me to a group called Crown Financial Ministries. And I, being who I am, I jumped into that and I self-educated with his help. And over the years, started with that about 30 years ago, and got a real passion for sharing this kind of knowledge with people. And then I was approached more recently when I was a real estate broker to begin to share this knowledge in a little bit more of a professional environment, and ultimately became involved with the Heartland Institute, which, as Laura mentioned, is a 501c3. So that's kind of the genesis of what happened and why it's really important to me that I have the opportunity to share this information with you, because if I had known this information when I was walking through those messy years of single momhood, I wouldn't have made the mistakes that I made. So I'm just going to run through this. The How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. That's the book that Laura held up. And we're going to be walking through the first part of that book and the principles there. But first, I want to share with you a little bit of the promotion that we've done with this book. This book, The How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, we have 500,000 books sold, and you can buy it through Amazon, although sitting in this class, you're going to be receiving one, which is quite the gift. So I'm going to share this little video with you, and then we'll get rocking and rolling, okay?
And financial illiteracy.
It's Madison Avenue manipulation, right? It's been going on for years and we buy into it.
How bad is financial illiteracy?
It's not taught in school, so people don't know this naturally.
Oh, you're right.
So you grow up not knowing anything about it, you make a lot of mistakes along the way, and we're hoping to educate them and teach them how money really works so they can learn the cause and effect of all this.
And it doesn't have to be generational.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly right.
Break that cycle.
Once you understand the basics of financial literacy, it changes your life. The secret is financial literacy. I mean, teaching your kids how money works.
I think it's really understanding how money works.
Once they understand the basics of how money works, they shouldn't have to struggle for very long.
Steve Siebold and Tom Matthews are the authors of How Money Works. Stop being a sucker.
Money means possibility. It means opportunity. It means freedom. Things you've always wanted to do, dreams that you have. Money makes it possible.
So that's a little bit of a taste of some of the media that has gone on around the two authors, Steve Siebold and Tom Matthews. So realities and concepts of financial foundation. You have to face the facts as we all know them before you begin a process. Our goal isn't to give you a PhD in finance, trust me, but to teach you the basics you'll need to know to make smarter decisions about money and wealth. That's the foundation of what we're about to move through. You'll also get to know the cast of characters from the How Money Works Stop Being a Sucker book. If you've read the book, you already have been introduced to these folks. Everyone seems to have a favorite one or two. Mine happens to be Zoe. I'm extremely fond of Zoe, and I'm extremely fond of Clark. There's proof that there are no stupid questions when it comes to money, so please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll be addressing them along the way. The first choice you have as we begin this course is really, really quite simple. You'll choose the mindset of a sucker, which is, or you'll learn to think like the wealthy. That's a choice. The fact that you've joined this class today, you've made a choice, and that is to sign in on the right track. Here's the great news. If you don't have to be wealthy to think like the wealthy. You only need knowledge. This is your opportunity to gain that knowledge and that mindset. One of our country's founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, once said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." We salute you for taking the time to learn one of the most valuable life skills you can develop. And you're really going to be glad you did. Comedian W.C. Fields once said, "It's morally wrong to allow a sucker to keep their money." That's kind of a brutal statement, and he was kidding, of course. But it does, however, prove one thing. If you don't understand how money works, you could end up as the butt of someone else's joke. For you, because you're sitting here, that stops today. We know that the word sucker sounds a little insulting. We get that, but it catches your attention. Unfortunately, that's the best way to describe someone who's been taken advantage of because they don't know how things work. Not knowing how money works, it really does suck. It can suck up your time, it can suck up your freedom, and it even can suck up your income. And that sucks. There's an old saying, what we think about, we bring about. Your financial reality will largely depend upon how your mind works when it comes to money. It just makes sense. So in today's class, Masterclass Part 1, we'll cover these 5 basic concepts and strategies. Each is essential to the foundation required to start making financial decisions with confidence and to start taking action to get yourself on track. Today, we all know about how devastating a global medical crisis can be. Not knowing about money is the economic version of a global crisis, and it affects over 5 billion people in the world who are considered illiterate when it comes to their money. The financial devastation it has caused to individuals all over the world is immeasurable, and some of it's intentional. The financial industry won't be happy. We are at WealthWave committing to change that trajectory for you. If this was 1920, there would still be millions of adults in our nation who couldn't read. I know that's taking education over the last has changed that, fortunately. The How Money Works Masterclass is public education. in financial literacy. With this course, you will learn the building blocks to earn, spend, save, and invest, just like learning to read, When you know how money really works, it changes how your financial story ends. You can change your financial story by becoming literate. That's what I did, and that's why I'm here talking to you. When you heard me say over 5 billion people in the world are considered financially literate, you probably wondered what that means. It references the shocking result of a recent global study. In that study, only 30% of people in the world are considered financially literate. The study used a simple quiz about money to reveal that the vast majority of people from all countries all over the world were unable to correctly answer a few simple questions about money. This class will teach you the answers to those questions and many more. It's the reason I teach this course, and hopefully that's why you're here. Our nation isn't any better off than the rest of the world. Financial literacy is our top economic crisis too. Look at these numbers. Can you believe that almost half of Americans don't have enough money to cover a $400 emergency, or make their student loan payments on time, or pay off their credit cards, or even consider retiring? Sarah is right. How numbers hurt families every day is hard to process. In early 2020, with the number of people on unemployment, the stock market being volatile, and so many people impacted, I'm sure that the numbers are even worse. But here's the good news for you and for everyone who takes this course. With knowledge and action, we can change these numbers together. This masterclass is your day one, a new financial reality, a new financial mindset, and a new financial future. According to the National Financial Education Council's recent survey, U.S. adults lost an average of $1,200 in 2018 because they didn't know what they were doing with their money. 1 out of 5 lost $2,500. It's like taking a stimulus check and catching it on fire. Only 21 states make you take one class on money in high school. And of those that do, they only scratch the surface with topics like balancing your checkbook. Do you think that's enough? I don't think that's enough. I didn't get that. What percentage of schools teach sex education, lacrosse, broadcast journalism? Almost 50 out of 50. You can't make this stuff up. It makes no sense to us either, which is why we are doing this financial literacy education. Most of our kids think that personal finance course would benefit them most. It's hard to find one on your own. That's why we're teaching the masterclass, to give you and giving you that book. So let's get going. Let's meet the sucker cycle. Let's see where this came from. It's the trap of foolishly spending and low interest saving that goes on, month after month, year after year, slowly sucking away the potential for you to be wealthy, free, and in control. Every couple of weeks, this cycle repeats. Extra trips to the grocery store, unnecessary online purchases, another streaming subscription. Most people know how to earn money and spend it, and that's it. What about all the other options? It's time to break the sucker cycle.
Gretchen, I'm so sorry to interrupt you right here. We're not seeing anything on the screen except the how money works slide. So if you're showing numbers or slides, we are not seeing them yet. So you might need to stop sharing and then reshare the PowerPoint that you're working from. Thank you everyone for participating in the chat. I appreciate the feedback.
Okay, welcome to technology.
Exactly. It's making our lives so much easier, right?
Okay.
Still seeing the same
participants
slide.
Can now see your application. So okay, so let's look here. And just for the record, we ran this before we got started.
There we go.
Okay, so now what do you?
We see a green slide with the sucker gets a paycheck.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for pointing that out. Suckers hand their paycheck to someone else who builds their own wealth with the sucker's money. Wait till you see what the numbers look like. Little amounts can add up over time and become big amounts. So check this snapshot out from the book. Some of these numbers might be a little different since we've all been staying home. Less on clothing, rides, ride shares, coffee events, more on takeout, subscriptions, and maybe even alcohol. Think of your retirement like an airplane. It needs both wings to fly. Social Security and your 401k, if you have one, can make up one wing of the income in your plan to live on in retirement. The other wing is completely up to you, your responsibility. If you hope to live on at least 70% of your pre-retirement income, you'll need to be serious about what you put away. Your financial professional can help you decide what that number is and where to put it. I'm in conversations like that every day. Let's take a look at how Americans are doing with the second wing of their retirement. No matter what generation you're a part of, none of them are saving enough. Remember, the older you are, the less time you have, so you'll need to put more money away. Here's an example that will shine a bright light on the numbers and the possibility of a savings shortfall. If you don't put enough aside each month at a good enough rate of return, your savings can fall short, putting your retirement income and lifestyle at risk. Depending on that shortfall, you might have to re-enter the workforce, cut back on your lifestyle to live on less, or move in with your kids. I don't want to do that. See the shortfall, the gray area there between what you saved and how much you need? It should be the focus of every American and their financial professional to close that gap. Here's what it looks like when you nail it. The gap's closed. Retirement savings goals are reached. This person will have a reliable income because they saved the amount necessary to get the rate of return necessary to reach the savings required to make the retirement they imagine.
And Gretchen, you're going to have to forward the slides.
The slides are not forwarding?
No. We are still seeing the green page with that initial, the sucker gets a paycheck slide.
Okay. I will get this figured out. Thanks, everybody.
You should have a view of that too, so you can see what we can see at the same time.
Okay, so now you see how suckers think?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a strange background. It's not maximized. So we see something blocking part of the slide.
Is that better?
There's still something, yeah, whatever you're moving around there is still kind of.
How's that?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, carry on.
There. Can you see the full slide now?
Yes. Well, yes, it was bigger before you did that.
Okay, what I'm dealing with, everybody in the background, is I have a script I have to read because this is an approved program. So I have to be able to see the script. I'm sorry. Can you see the screen well enough?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, we're just going to have to work with it. Okay, as Steve Siebold said in his book, How Rich People Think, the wealthy think differently than everyone else. Suckers accept their situation. Their thoughts about money center on fear. Their behavior around money centers on foolishness. The wealthy, facing the same reality, choose an alternative mindset. They see money and their future differently. Gathering as much knowledge as available, they think about money with excitement. They see a bright future, one filled with wealth and opportunity. Let's spend a few minutes learning about the power of compound interest. Albert Einstein said this was the most powerful force he had ever discovered. Compounding is the interest that interest can earn, in addition to the interest your savings can earn, or interest on interest, as Zoe puts it. Compound interest leverages the power of exponential growth. This amazing story from our little book is about John D. Rockefeller, one of America's self-made billionaires. I'll tell you the short version. Rockefeller lent $50 to a farmer at 7% when Rockefeller was a boy. He earned $3.50 in interest in addition to getting the amount he lent back. During that same time, he earned $1 at 12 digging potatoes for 3 days. He looked at the $1.12 he earned from the backbreaking work versus the $3.50 he earned for him, the $3.50 his money earned for him. That's when he decided to make his money work harder than he ever could. This is a lesson to never forget. You decide. You work for your money, limited by time, or the money works for you around the clock without limits and without you breaking your back. Rockefeller went on to say he had ways of making money most people had no idea about. We're about to let you in on some of Rockefeller's secrets. The difference between simple and compound interest is substantial. One stays the same and one grows and grows. To see the difference, we'll look at two different examples of $1,500 growing at 9% over 50 years. By the way, everybody that's going to be receiving this book, this is directly out of the book. So the stuff that I touched on a little bit earlier, it's all in the book. With simple interest, the $1,500 grows to $8,250. Not much over such a long period of time. With compound interest, look at the difference in the slide. $1,500 grows to $132,777 in the same number of years, 16 times more money. Notice how the curve on the graph gets steeper and steeper in the later years as the power of compound interest really begins to take off. Mr. Einstein also said compound interest is the greatest mathematical discovery of all time. He obviously thought a lot about many things in his lifetime, and he put the power of compound interest right up there with E equals MC squared. We learned E equals MC squared in school, but we didn't learn how money works. And yet Einstein thought it was the greatest discovery of all time. Here's an example of how saving money with compound interest can be a game changer. The interest ends up being way more than the amount you saved. The interest in this example is 3 times what you saved alone. Here you see Rockefeller's secret revealed. Interest earning interest, creating wealth that your savings alone can't accomplish. So now that you're starting to get the hang of this, you might have a pretty good guess whether $50,000 one time or $5,000 each month, $500 each month becomes more over 45 years. Both accounts earn 9%. Which do you think earns more? Let's take a look. $500 a month ends up outpacing the one-time sum of $50,000. Even though TJ saved more over time, his account passed Sarah's in this example after only 17 years. The tortoise beat the hare. Slow and steady can win the race. The return you get makes a big difference on how this story turns out. Here's what, watch what I mean. This is interesting. $178 saved each month from ages 25 to 67 at different returns creates really, really different results. Most people don't understand this, which explains why they choose unfortunate places to save their money. The amount per month and the time are the same. The only change is the rate of return. This could mean as much as 797% more money at 9% versus 1%. That's almost a $900,000 difference. As you can see, your rate of return could be the defining factor that closes your retirement savings gap or leaves you with a significant shortfall. Focusing on safety alone and ignoring the rate of return can be a costly mistake. Wealthy people want their money to work for them as hard as they did to earn it themselves. So I'm going to take a pause and see if anybody has any questions about that section of what we just talked about.
And so, oh, there is one hand up. Let's see, it might have been from earlier with the slides. But I'll go ahead and activate the microphone for Allie. Whoops.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Beautiful. And you might cover this a little later in the presentation. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to read through the book yet, but you were talking about some of those different, the rates of return for compound interest. What types of accounts or vehicles, have compounding interest at those different rates? I'm familiar, obviously, with like checkings and savings accounts. A little bit about stock market and that sort of thing, but just sort of wondering in general, what kind of vehicles usually will do some sort of a compound interest rate?
That's excellent question. There are various numbers of tools that are in our toolbox that we can, I'm dodging a little bit, Allie, and please forgive me, but I have to be careful wearing my 501c3 hat in regards to talking about specifics. But there are vehicles out there that those of us who have the credentials and licensing to work in that can provide you with income. There's where you can put your money in the product and you have protection from the downside. If the market goes down, you have some protection in there, so you don't always participate in that downside. And then there is your ability to participate in the stock market. So to get in the vernacular a little bit, it does what's called narrowing the beta. It keeps the volatility under check so you can get ahead of inflation, which is really the goal. We want to get your income outpacing inflation so that, and you'll read about this in the book, the time value of money. If you think about the cost of a jar of peanut butter, even 5 years ago, or the cost of gasoline last year, that's an evidence of the time value of money. Last year, you may have been able to completely fill up your gas tank for 30 bucks. Now it's going to cost you more like 45 to 50. That's the time value of money. That's inflation chipping away at how much you can buy. I just read an article yesterday, came out, saying that right now inflation is 1% a month. That's 12% a year. We normally illustrate this at 2.5% to 3.5%, but at the moment, you're losing ground. So you have to be making as much return on your investment as you can just to keep even with inflation. That will settle down. Don't freak. But at the moment, that's what we're facing.
And Gretchen, I'm just gonna pop in here and ask on a completely anonymous basis without getting into any specifics, could you give us a couple of examples of compound interest products? Just a couple of random examples.
Compound, okay. Well, anytime that you are in the stock market, a lot of the products and tools that I use are in the stock market. Pretty much everything that I work with is either in the stock market or in indexes. that mirror the stock market. So you are getting interest on interest in those kinds of products. They exist. I'm not being vague. They do exist. But there's a suitability issue. If you go into the doctor and you get onto the internet and you decide your shoulder's sore and you figured out what it is, and you go into the doctor and say, I figured out this is the problem with my shoulder. Would you please give me this prescription so I can fix it? He'll smile indulgently and he'll hand you a medical history form. And you'll fill that out. And then based on his knowledge and the tools that he has, he'll help you figure out personally for you what's going on with your shoulder. That's the way a good quality professional, financial professional should function. And that's why I seem to be dodging a little bit, but I've got hundreds of tools in my toolbox. And those of us who are financial professionals have hundreds of tools in the toolbox. So yeah. Does that answer
Gretchen,
your question?
we have a
all,
couple
Laura?
we have a couple more. One person has asked, why has interest on savings gone down so much in the past 18 months?
Yes, very, very good question. That is, that's a reflection of our country and the Federal Reserve trying to rein in inflation. And it affects the how much money banks can receive on their money. So the banks are given interest rates. When they loan out money, they are able to earn a little bit of money on the money they loan. But the Fed has control of that. So that affects how much money the banks can give you when you put your money in like a CD. So it's all the Federal Reserve trying to keep the wheels on the economy. And that's a high level 30,000 foot kind of a concept of what's going on. The Fed really is in charge of interest rates. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. I have another question coming in from Marianne. I'm going to activate your microphone, Marianne. You might have to unmute yourself though.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So to answer the last question about certain products for compound interest, one of the best ways I found to pursue that and find products for compound interest was my quest to find a financial advisor. This is a difficult one. I wanted a certified financial advisor with that professional designation. And how I did that is I interviewed 5 of those advisors. And in that process, I asked those advisors, what are the products for compound interest? And you would not believe, after those 5 interviews, how much education I received. So that is really one way of going through that process and finding that out. Anyway, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Marianne. I appreciate it. Does anyone else have a question? Anyone? Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on. I'm sure we'll have some in the coming moments.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the time value of money, which we just discussed. We've all been guilty of squandering time. It's especially costly when you lose the value of money over time. You never get time back or money. Whoops. Time is one of the most precious commodities we have. How long do you have until you pay off your car or your home or to send your kids to college or to retire or possibly to run out of the money before you die? You need to know the numbers. Why? Because it forces us to have the value of time that we have. There are 3 ways to leverage time and the time value of money. Start now, save regularly, and be patient. Starting earlier is always a good idea. It makes a significant difference. In this case, saving from ages 22 to 30 is better than saving from ages 30 to 67. $110,892 better after putting away 4.75 times less money. This is a common sense principle to understand that is frequently ignored. The longer you wait, the more you have to save to hit your goal. So don't wait. Here's a picture of the numbers that break it down by age. Find your age on here. For each million you want at retirement, you can see the money amount you need to save to hit it. At age 30, you need to save $282 a month to have $1 million at retirement. But if you wait until age 40, you need to save $731 a month. At some point, you'll outpace your ability to hit the money savings amount you require. You simply can't afford it. At that point, you'll have two choices: shrink your dreams or find a way to earn more money. Now, now might not be a good time to start applying these principles for yourself and see what it looks like. Write down your age and how much you need to save from the previous slide. What happens if you wait 5 years? How fast has the last 5 years flown by? Everyone needs to know this information now because time's ticking. Sucker-minded people never think it's a good time to take care of this. The wealthy-minded always get started as soon as they can, which is now, if not sooner. Now let's look at an example of something most parents dream about. If you have children or plan to have children, you always want them to have it better than you do. That's natural. This example is a re-imaging of how parents can leave a legacy for their kids. It's a strategy that applies the power of compound interest and the time value of money in a way that makes the traditional end-of-life wealth transfer seem old.
And Gretchen, could you maybe move that gray box down a little bit again? Thank you.
How's that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's still, oh, there you go.
Only 20% of children will receive an inheritance. It's probably even lower now that so many people have faced the challenges of the first half of 2020. If you want to give your children $1 million at their retirement, which is more likely, you either give them each $1 million in cash when they're adults and you've saved enough, or develop a plan to save a fraction of that amount for each child when they're young. We know how hard it is for retirement-age parents to preserve an inheritance for adult children. With seniors living longer, almost all of their savings may be required to cover decades of expenses, including medical bills and long-term care. This new reality of longevity can remove the possibility of leaving an inheritance the old way. Since it's so hard to leave an inheritance today, why not use the greatest financial asset your child has? Time. They have an entire life of it. What could the power of compounding do for your child over 67 years? Let's take a look. $1 Million Baby leverages 3 simple concepts: the power of compound interest, the time value of money, and wealth protection. This is one of my favorite quotes. Nelson Henderson said, "The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit." So could you use the money principles you've learned today to save $1 million for your child or grandchild? It really is easier than you think. The following examples are simple to illustrate how this can work. And this is really a hands-on concept that you can get your head around in regards to the principles we've just covered with the time value of money and compound interest. In this example, puts $13,000 at one time and leaves it there for her daughter's birth until her daughter turns 67. It grows at 6.5% to a little over $1 million. If Dana waits until her daughter graduates from high school, Her daughter only receives about $300,000 when she turns 67. What a difference 18 years can make. Hector doesn't have $13,000 sitting around, but he still wants his son to retire with $1 million. He and his relatives can work together to save just $2,500 now, and then just $250 a month for the next 4 years. Then, like magic, they'll hit the goal too. His son also retires with $1 million waiting for him. If Hector waits until his son turns 18, it's the same story as if Dana had waited, much less, a little over $300,000 again. We're developing a calculator that will allow you to play with the numbers to see what it might look like. In the meantime, your financial professional can help you decide. 250 children born every minute could live a different life if their parents and grandparents did this for them when they were young. Now you'll see why we call this strategy $1 Million Baby. How appreciative would your kids be one day, perhaps when you're gone, that their parents thought about their future, knew how money worked, and acted in love to take care of them. That's a thank you that could change your legacy forever. Once again, sucker-minded people leave it all to chance, while the wealthy-minded realize that a dream come true it would be to do that for their family. Are you having fun? We're closing in on today's class. Now, my favorite part. It's time to learn the rule of 72. Have any of you ever heard of it before? It's a little known mental math shortcut that the wealthy have used for years. Everyone should know it. You simply divide any interest rate into the number 72, and it tells you how long it takes for money to double. It works for you if you save money. It works against you if you borrow money. At 1%, it takes 72 years for $1 to turn into $2. That's a long time. Would anyone knowingly choose that on purpose? Keep that question in mind and we'll come back to it. As you can see, the better rate of return you get, the faster your money can double. At 3%, every 24 years. At 6%, every 12 years. At 9%, every 8 years. And at 12%, every 6 years. That's more like it. Here's another way to look at it. In terms of the number of doubles you could have over your lifetime. At 1%, you'll be lucky if you live long enough to get one double. At 6%, you could have 4 doubles. At 12%, it could be as many as 8 doubles. Each double is twice the money. Every double counts. And this chart, by the way, is in your book. So you can go back to the book and you can study this.
And I just want to take a pause right there really quick because we have the books at our San Luis Obispo Center. We also have a few in North County, San Luis Obispo. So if you haven't gotten a copy yet, I put my contact information in the chat so that I can get a copy to you. They're free. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Laura. Remember the question about 1%? Would anyone choose 72 years to double? Oh yeah, because people don't know how money works. There is almost $10 trillion sitting in passbook savings accounts that average 0.1%. That's just a fraction of 1%. When CNBC did a review of our book a few months ago, this is one of the things they pointed out to be almost unbelievable. If you divide 0.1% into 72, you're looking at 720 years for your account to double. By the year 2740, as George says, his great, 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 great grandchildren will love that. And just so you're clear, the same place that gives you 0.1% can charge you 16% or more for a credit card. That means their money doubles every 4.5 years. Now you can see why the subtitle of the book is Stop Being a Sucker. You'll need to know how money works today, not tomorrow, today. Of course, the bank will give you a lollipop for your trouble waiting in line to make a deposit. What brand is it usually? I actually went into the bank, and this is true. The brand is called Dum Dums. I'm in Bakersfield. I usually have one sitting here so I can show you. I didn't bring it with me. We can't make this stuff up. It's like they're trying to tell you something, but you just don't know the code. You can also use this to figure out what return you'll need for a savings goal or what a loan will cost you. This is understanding the cost of money, the time value of money, paying attention to how much a loan costs you or how much interest you can earn against inflation. These are the kinds of numbers that we're trying to get across to you, that this information's out there, and it's not massive mental math. It's really pretty simple. So this is not the time to be sucker-minded. This is the time to apply the rule of 72 to all of your finances, like wealthy-minded people do. We're at the conclusion of today's course. Principles like you just learned will bring up questions like the ones you see on the screen here. Should you use a bank account? What are other safe options? Should you refinance a loan at a lower rate? What can you do to help make more doubles possible? A financial professional is the best person to turn to for these questions and others. We can discuss this with you if you don't have one or need help choosing one. When we get together next time, Masterclass Part 2, I'll show you how to apply today's principles to your personal finances using practical, straightforward action plans and products and services that will help you make this happen. We'll take you through the 7 money milestones to help you chart your course along the way. Each milestone is important to complete your financial plan. The good news is you've already begun milestone number 1, financial education. You're becoming more financially literate, and you'll hopefully be able to discuss your situation with a financial professional, which we strongly recommend. There are strategies and products with benefits like those you see on the screen here. Make sure you ask about them. What kind of products have zero market risk? What about long-term care? Long-term care is a huge problem in this country today. Many people are experiencing that right now as their parents age and move into long-term care facilities. The devastation to the estate for the parents is remarkable. How do you grow your income tax deferred? What would tax-free income look like? And what would a tax-free legacy for your children and heirs look like? Those are some of the topics that we're going to talk about in our next masterclass number 2. We'll also talk about the impact of taxes as you work on your personal plan. We'll look at the 3 different buckets: tax now, tax later, and tax never, and critical information in regarding how those taxes work. We'll talk about the seed. We'll talk about the harvest. We'll talk about the mindset of the farmer who makes a decision of, visualize him having a handful of grain and looking at a field. It takes an act of faith to put the grain he could eat down into the field and let it grow into a massive harvest. He can eat the handful of grain today and it's gone, or he can take an act, a considered decision, put the money in the ground and let it grow for a season and reap the harvest. That's how the wealthy think. It's like punching the driving directions into your phone. 2 points of reference is all you need: where you are and where you want to go. The same is true to chart your course with your financial roadmap. The How Money Works Money Discovery in the book that you have or will be given can help you take care of those decisions. We look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, please review what you've learned today by reading the book, or go get yourself a book if you haven't gotten one yet, and begin applying the knowledge of these principles. Financial literacy can be yours, and we really appreciate your time. So I'm done. And if anybody has questions for me, that would be great.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I don't see any questions at the moment, Gretchen. And I just want to remind everyone, we have part 2 of the class on Tuesday of next week, same time. I have 3 centers to serve you, depending on your geographic location. We have no cost one-on-one mentoring and consulting, and we do that on a variety of topics through the Women's Business Center: marketing, cybersecurity, financial planning, access to capital, repairing your credit, Excel spreadsheets, QuickBooks, you name it. So if you need help with anything with your business, give us a call at any of the numbers that you see located on the screen. As you see, we serve San Luis Obispo, Kern, and Monterey counties.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, Gretchen. Hi, Laura. It's Heather. You
Hi,
got me
Heather.
on there as Gretchen. I just wanted to offer that when you said if people that attended don't have the books,
Yes.
I have books and I can take it to them or mail it to them if they want to contact me. Can I give them my phone number?
Actually, no, that's okay. We have copies that we've already obtained from Gretchen, and we've got
very
it
good.
covered. I think you came on late, so you missed
Yes,
that
I did.
announcement.
So sorry about that.
Thank you,
I just
Gretchen.
wanted
No
to put that.
problem. All right, any questions from anyone else today? All right. Any last words from you, Gretchen? I put Gretchen's information on the chat, so anybody interested in contacting her through WealthWave for more information can do so. I'm sure she is one of many options of certified financial planners you could consult with in SLO County, and we appreciate her joining us today and sharing her knowledge.
Can I make one more little short comment?
Yes.
I'm fully aware of the fact that a lot of the principles that we're talking about in here, getting out of debt, student loan debt, how to figure these numbers out, asking questions in an open forum like this is can be difficult. So anybody who would like to spend some time with me, I don't charge for sitting around and chatting with people about how to solve their issues. That's what I do. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. It's not going to cost you a dime to spend some time. We'll go through the book kneecap to kneecap if that's what you need to do, and begin to help you solve these issues. That's my heart, and I just want everyone on this call to know that I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. We really value your time, and we appreciate you being here today. So if that's it for everyone, we'll go ahead and close today's session, and we look forward to seeing you back here next week for some more advanced information from what we gained today.
Yep.
All right. Goodbye,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.